Following the 1944 Normandy landings, the 82nd Airborne Division was seen crossing the Virginia as Western allies successfully breached German defenses, reclaiming significant amounts of occupied land by late summer. High Command conceived a new operation, capable of concluding the war before Christmas, known as Operation Market Garden. This mission was a coordinated airborne and armored effort involving the British 1st Airborne Division, the 1st Polish Independent Parachute Brigade, and the American 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, all tasked with landing at strategic points in the Netherlands to secure key bridges. Meanwhile, the British 30th Corps would advance, using these captured bridges to enter Germany from the north. The 82nd Airborne Division, led by Brigadier General James Gavin, aimed to secure the bridges over the Vaal River in the city of WWII, specifically a rail bridge and a road bridge. During the German offensive into the Low Countries, these bridges were destroyed but later repaired by German engineers, making their capture intact and essential for the success of Market Garden. On September 17, 1944, Operation Market Garden was initiated. After landing, the paratroopers hurried to secure their designated objectives. Upon seeing the advancing 82nd, the Germans destroyed several smaller canal bridges, although at least one was captured. The Americans then aimed for Nagan and its crucial bridges, but were held up while preparing for suspected 1,000 Panzer tanks in a nearby forest, a threat that turned out to be unfounded. Once they entered the city, the Americans were welcomed as liberators by the Dutch residents, but the festivities were abruptly interrupted when the Germans launched a counterattack. German Commander General Walter Model had dispatched reinforcements from the 10th Panzer SS Division to maintain control over the bridge. Consequently, a battle erupted, preventing the 82nd Airborne from achieving their objective. They required support from British forces, but the Market Garden Plan insisted that the bridges be secured beforehand. On September 19th, armored units from the Household Cavalry reached Nagan, where a meeting took place between General Gavin and General Brian Horks. They determined that a direct assault on the bridge would be too costly. Hence, Gavin proposed what seemed like a ridiculous idea. Both the north and south sides of the bridge would be attacked at the same time with a combined assault from British tanks and American paratroopers. The primary obstacle was the Allied forces located on the south side of the Vaal River, a 400-yard-wide tributary of the Rhine with a swift current. To overcome this, Gavin suggested that the paratroopers cross the river by boat approximately a mile downstream, launching their attack on the Germans at the north side of the bridge simultaneously with the main assault from the south. Although skeptical, Horks agreed to the plan due to the lack of alternatives, scheduling it for the following day. On September 20th, around 8:30 the following morning, the Allies commenced their offensive, with the initial goal being to secure Nan on the southern riverbank. While this operation was in progress, the 3rd Battalion of the 504th Regiment prepared for their amphibious mission, supported by Sherman tanks from the Irish Guards and artillery from the Leyer Eamon Rade. Complications arose almost immediately, as reinforcements from the 325th Glider Infantry Regiment were delayed due to poor weather at their base in Britain, leaving them short of essential manpower. Additionally, the boats required for the operation were supplied by British engineers, but their arrival was slow as Hell's Highway, the narrow supply route, was clogged with constant traffic jams and destroyed vehicles obstructing movement, leading to late boat arrivals. Upon their arrival, the paratroopers were somewhat disappointed. The boats were constructed of canvas and plywood, better suited for casual fishing than for a serious amphibious operation on one of Europe's largest rivers. Despite this, the 3rd Battalion began preparing the boats, 13 men plus 3 engineers each, and started the crossing. As the men entered the water, the tanks, supported by artillery, provided covering fire while launching smoke screens to conceal the paratroopers. In addition, a formation of 8 RAF Typhoon fighters strafed the northern bank to support the landing. Despite these arrangements, disaster soon unfolded. The soldiers were paratroopers, not Marines, and lacked experience in waterborne operations. The overloaded boats became stuck in the muddy banks, making them challenging to free, while some pushed their boats into deeper water to avoid getting mired, only to capsize. While the swift current of the river caused some boats to drift uncontrollably, eventually, enough boats were able to start the crossing in earnest. However, the smokescreen dissipated faster than anticipated, and the Germans on the opposite bank opened fire with machine guns and mortars. Major Julian Cook, the leader of the 3rd Battalion, was in the lead boat and prayed the rosary with each stroke of his paddle, setting the pace for his men with the rhythm of his prayers. The effectiveness of this makeshift sea shanty was limited by the lack of paddles, prompting the men to improvise by using the butts of their rifles, their hands, and anything they could find to make it across. With such easy targets in the water, the German machine guns, tanks, and mortars began to pick off the struggling paratroopers, shredding the canvas boats with their firepower. Holes were punctured in the fragile hulls, and the survivors used their helmets to bail out the rushing water, stuffing cloth into the leaks in a frantic effort to remain afloat. Out of the 26 boats that attempted the first trip, only 11 made it back to the southern shore for the second wave, while those that didn't face significant remaining challenges ahead. The position was a dike located at one end of a 1,200-ton wide field. After catching their breath, the soldiers readied their bayonets and charged forward. A brief firefight took place with the few Germans present, successfully clearing the defensive stronghold. While this was happening, the rest of the battalion crossed over, with the majority of the 3rd Battalion situated on the northern side of the VA, making their way to the railroad bridge after neutralizing several German positions. The northern end of the rail bridge was secured, leading to more intense fighting, but ultimately this part of the bridge was also captured. Simultaneously, Nan was steadily being seized by the British Armed Forces and American paratroopers, who sometimes engaged in combat from rooftop to rooftop. By evening, both ends of the bridge were under Allied control. The SS attempted to destroy the structure with demolition charges, but these failed to detonate. It is purported that Jan van Hoff, a member of the Dutch resistance, had rendered the charges ineffective days prior, though this remains unverified. British tanks were then able to cross the Vaal River, aiming for the city of Arnhem, located about 10 miles away, where elements of the British 1st Airborne and the 1st Polish Parachute Brigade were being pressured by a German counterattack. Instead of advancing towards Arnhem to assist, the British tanks became entrenched, having received orders to hold the bridge at all costs, with no further directions to race to Arnhem due to a mix of factors, including the onset of night, the arrival of German reinforcements, logistical challenges, and existing German resistance in the Nan area. The advance towards Arnhem was postponed when the paratroopers learned of this situation, leading to their anger as they had executed the crossing in broad daylight, sacrificing lives under the belief that time was of the essence, rather than waiting for nightfall. In the end, 134 soldiers from the 3rd Battalion and their attached engineers lost their lives, were wounded, or went missing, amounting to over half of the unit. However, there was little they could do except bolster their position and wait for further orders. After several more days of combat, it was decided that Arnhem was too difficult to hold, and the Allies should instead consolidate their front line around Nyan, with the paratroopers at Arnhem moving south to join their allies. Though still debated today, various reasons, such as the 82nd's failure to secure the bridges before the tanks arrived, logistical and communication breakdowns, and adverse weather contributed to the ultimate failure of Operation Market Garden. Despite this outcome, the bravery of those who fought is remembered. 4 decades later, in 2013, a monument was established to honor the fallen, and a third bridge across the Vaal was named the Oversteek, or the Crossing, featuring 48 lights, one for each soldier who lost their life attempting to reach a bridge too far.